Good evening and welcome to Space Oddities. We are live on YouTube, we are live on our Space Oddities Facebook group, and we are live on the Astronomy Ireland Facebook page. And before I go any further, I'd like to thank Astronomy Ireland for letting us invade their Facebook page. Thank you very much for joining us. We are delighted to have you with us. As you might have gathered already, we've changed a few things around here. We have a new look, we have new things to do, and we hope you like it very much. And if you do, put it in the chat. If you don't, put it in the chat. We are delighted you can join us. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, we are Space Oddities. We chat about astronomy and space and everything related and lots of different topics. And there we are. I'm joined by our panel tonight. How are you guys? You all okay?
Very well.
Good,
Yep,
thank you.
good.
Yeah. So we've got a bit of a packed program tonight. I do hope you will bear with us because this is the first time on our new software platform. So we might well get a few technical glitches, and we hope you will stick with us. Of course, we will do our best to iron them out. If not tonight, then before next week's show. So please bear with us because this is the first time for all of us. And so far, everybody's managed to stay on the screen and be audible. Please bear with us because this is the first time for all of us.
And
So
I
far,
think we should.
everybody's managed to stay on the screen.
I think we should mention that it would be great to have your feedback to all our viewers.
Absolutely.
Your feedback
Absolutely.
on the quality of the streaming and all that, because this definitely quite new for us as well.
Absolutely. So if you have any views about tonight's show, we'd love to hear them. Put them in the chat. Also, while you're there, you may as well go and subscribe to the channel at the same time because your subscriptions are greatly valued. About roughly 30% of you who are watching are not subscribed to the channel on an average week. So it doesn't take a moment. It doesn't cost anything. And what have you got to lose? All it means is that you'll get notified about our shows. So please subscribe because it really helps the YouTube algorithm take notice of us. And that way we can grow and do things like we've done this week, improve things and just get better and better and better. So this week is very much an experiment. We'll see how it goes. So what have we got on the show today? Well, what we've got on the show today, as well as our regular features, we're going to take a further look at the benefits of space exploration to humans. We'll be carrying on with that theme. And we shall also announce the results of October's competition, where one lucky person will win a solar finder scope for their telescope, courtesy of our sponsors, Rother Valley Optics. Thank you very much to Rother Valley for sponsoring the show and donating a prize each month to our monthly competitions. As you may know, we ran a competition in October to take a photo of a sunset or a sunrise with a mobile phone. And we'll be announcing the winner towards the end of the program. But for now, I normally come over to Roger and say, Roger, what's up in the sky? But Roger's having a few technical difficulties tonight. Roger, have you got anything to show us?
Well, I've got the presentation, but how do I get to it?
Yes, that's a good question because I can't see it from my end either.
Okay.
We'll work. I'll work on that from this, and perhaps we can come back to you later.
All right.
Okay. Well, we're moving on with what we've got. We're carrying on with our theme of the benefits of space to humans. Now, from my point of view, and I'm sure many of you out there have had this experience, that you've been on social media, and it seems that no matter where you go on social media, as soon as you get into a conversation, any lengthy conversation about space exploration, there's always at least one person who says, it's all a waste of money. We shouldn't be spending the money, and we should be feeding the poor and the starving instead of spending money on space. So what I hope to demonstrate to you is that this is not the case at all. So I'm just going to set this up, and here we go. Right. So, space exploration, cost and benefits. Now, this is to give you guys out there esteemed viewers some ammunition. You come across these people who say that we're spending too much on space and there should be other priorities, etc. This is just some ammunition to help you answer those arguments. So the first thing to say is this is the actual total amount that is spent worldwide on space. Now, this can be any use of space, whether it's military or exploration or science or earth sciences, whatever it is. Anything that's in space costs money, and this is what the world spends on it. This is the latest figure that I could find, 2018. But as you can see, in 2018, the world spent a total of $70.8 billion on space. Now, that may sound a lot of money. Let's have a look at who the biggest countries are. Obviously, the United States spends more than any other country, a total of 40 of those 70 billion. Then Russia, then China, then Japan. You may notice the United Kingdom is there. In 2018, the United Kingdom spent 894 million on space, which of course is minuscule compared to what America and Russia spend. That figure has gone up because, as you may know, there's been a bit of a renaissance with the British space program the last couple of years, and the government are now spending over $1 billion, and with more to come. But when you look at all the breakdown of these figures, 70 billion across the whole world actually isn't a lot of money. And if you look at it as a proportion of each country's GDP, their gross domestic product, strangely, Russia spends more of their GDP on space than the US does. Not much of a difference, but a little bit of a difference. Then France, then Japan, and China and India, and so on. So if you look at it as a percentage of the GDP, it's minuscule. You know, the USA spends 0.23% of its whole GDP on space. So that's a really minuscule amount. The European Space Agency, this is how they break down. They're spending this year 7.15 billion, and this is how it breaks down. It breaks down to a lot spent on Earth observation, as you may see. That's 1.6 billion on Earth observation, which is really important for everybody on the planet. And space transportation and navigation. I don't know what Prodex is. Perhaps somebody knows and could put that in the chat. But that's how the European Space Agency breaks down their budget. And if you look at how the NASA budget breaks down, well, between deep space exploration and science, that's the lion's share of NASA's spending. And I think we can put deep space exploration and science actually into one basket because they're both science. We explore deep space for science. So the majority of NASA's budget is going on actual science, which is great. Okay, now, costs and benefits. Now, between 1965 and 1959 and 1969, the US spent 25 billion US dollars. Now that's in 1958 dollars. $25 billion was spent. You've got to remember that includes the Apollo program up to Apollo 11 and Apollo 12 as well. But that was the cost in 1958 dollars. Between 1959 and 1969, $25 billion. By 1970, it's estimated that had actually put 52 billion back into the US economy. And by 1987, that spending, it's estimated, had put 181 billion back into the US economy. So what this is telling us is that the US spent 25 billion between 59 and 69, which by 1987 had put $181 billion back into the US economy. Now, in other words, every American dollar spent on space puts an estimated between $5 and $7 back into the US economy, according to the Midwest Research Institute. So this is the benefit. This is the financial, tangible benefit of spending money on space. It helps economies. And not just the US economy, every economy that is involved in space in whatever form will get tangible financial benefits back into their economies. And this has been demonstrated time and time again. Now, where are those financial benefits exactly? They're in new technologies, they're in new materials science, manufacturing and management paradigms, electronics, new medical inventions and techniques, and much more. And the list goes on and on and on. And these are direct, tangible benefits to economies. Also, let us not forget that the space industry employs people who are highly skilled and they are in highly paid jobs. And those people put a lot of money into the economy simply because of the fact they've got well-paid jobs. So there's that benefit as well. It's the spending power of the people who actually work in the space program. And when you think that at the height of the Apollo program, NASA was employing directly or indirectly 500,000 people, that put a big boost into the US economy. If you compare the cost of the Apollo program, for example, with other US government expenditure, it's a small amount. So you can see the Apollo program there in red. You can see the big federal expenditures have been the Vietnam War, the financial bailout after the crash of 2008, and the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, whose expenditure dwarfs anything else the US government has ever spent on. So again, the Apollo program is tiny compared to other major expenditures that the US government have found the money for. And of course, people say, well, shouldn't we be helping the money, should be spending the money on helping the poor and the starving? Well, if you look at US foreign aid, in fact, the US, as a share of its budget, spends 0.9% of that on economic foreign aid and 0.5% of that on military foreign aid. Now, that 0.5% is almost exactly what NASA gets every year from the US government. So, in other words, the US government spends the same money on NASA as they do on military foreign aid. So if we didn't have military foreign aid to worry about, perhaps the money could be spent from that better elsewhere. So it's a tiny amount. Whereas in 2021, the US Department of Defense spent $718 billion. So if you take off the 18 to 20 billion that NASA got from in their budget last year, take that off, it means that the US Department of Defense spent $700 billion more dollars than NASA gets in their budgets. So that's really the comparison. The answer is that governments do have the money to do both. So there's this idea that we can't do both. It's either or. It's not true. And when people talk about helping developing nations, it is already, space technology already helps developing nations and has done for a very long time in lots of ways. Resource discovery and exploitation, communications, weather forecasting, climate change study, agriculture, science education, highly skilled jobs, and more. And in fact, it's not just the US, because any economy that invests in space exploration, as I said, see massive benefits. In fact, there was a big conference this year in Uzbekistan about developing space technology among Eurasian nations. And if you look at the title of session 1, Space Technology, a Sustainable Driver for Socio-Economic Development in Central Eurasia. Because these countries know that if they spend money on space, they will improve their economies and help those who need it most. So this dichotomy that we can either help poor people or we can go exploring around the universe is a dichotomy. It's a false one, because we have got the money to do both. Nations of the world can afford to help out the needy and explore space. It's not an either or situation. Now, what do the public in America think about the money that is spent on NASA, for example? Well, this is quite interesting, because the American public were asked, NASA's 2021 budget is $21 billion too much or too little? Now I'm going to ask the panel here, what do you think, guys? What percentage of people said it was too much? Any guesses?
50%.
50%? Any other guesses?
70% too much.
70% too much?
65.
It's too low.
Too low, says Lou. Right,
I think,
okay.
yeah.
All right, in advance, hammer going down. Sold. Right. Interestingly, 27% of people thought it was too much, but only 20% thought it was too little. The others, the other 53%, either didn't answer or didn't know. But just going on those, it seems that most people thought that NASA's budget of 21 billion in 2021 was too much. However, look at this. If you pose the question another way and say, NASA usually receives around 0.5% of the federal budget, too much or too little, 31% of Americans said it's too much, 41% said it's too little. It's the same question because the 21 billion worked out around 0.5% of the federal budget. So you get a different answer from people depending on how you ask the question. And what this indicates to me is that most people, and I'm not saying this is unique to the US, I'm sure it's the same everywhere, most people don't have a clue about how much money is spent on space, either in absolute terms or relative to anything else. So this is where education comes in, of course. Now, the American public were also asked, where should NASA be spending the money? What should NASA's priorities be? And surprisingly, and this did surprise me, most people said that NASA's top priority should be monitoring the Earth's climate system. 63% said that. Worryingly, 11% of people said it's not too important or shouldn't be done at all, which is a bit depressing. However, this fits in with a survey that was done asking people about what the US government is doing as regards climate change, and 65% said that they're doing too little. So that chimes with that figure. The other priorities that people said NASA should be getting involved in are all these. Notice at the bottom, only 18 and 13% of people thought that NASA should be sending people to Mars and the Moon, respectively. So that's a bit depressing. But anyway, that's the thing. Just to finish off with a very quick thing, Hubble Space Telescope. To develop and build the Hubble Space Telescope cost each American the price of one hamburger. To maintain it costs each American 2 cents per week. And as we know, the astronomical benefits from that telescope are incalculable. It's going to give us science for years and years to come. And the space station, International Space Station, lots of benefits there, medical benefits, technical benefits, all sorts of benefits in things like the study of osteoporosis, breast cancer, etc., etc., and including some real innovations there. So the International Space Station, which cost 150 billion between 15 nations, has delivered incredible benefits, many of which are intangible, not directly financial. But the International Space Station has proved itself to be a fantastic laboratory for studying medicine in particular. And just to finish, the here, by the way, is a space takeaway. It's a takeaway in space that was put up on a balloon by some students. And why not put a takeaway into space? So here, you're going to hate me for this, here are your space takeaways. Money spent on space exploration repays itself many times over. Countries spend a tiny fraction of their GDP on space exploration, far less than many people think. People who moan about the cost of space exploration usually have no idea how much it costs, either in absolute or relative terms. Space technology is used in every aspect of our lives, from computers to medicine to everything around us today. And lastly, the big point, we can afford to explore space and feed the starving. It's not an either-or situation. So there you are, just some thoughts about the cost of space exploration. What do you think, guys? Any thoughts?
I I just want to say thanks, Andy. That was really informative. I just say that you replace space exploration by any scientific research program by the government, and we'd have exactly the same arguments at the end.
Yeah, you're undoubtedly right, Bernard.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but makes the case really clear for us. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, Lou, do you have any thoughts, being an American?
Yeah. We talk to the public all the time. NASA does, and our sense was that most people didn't even know that NASA was involved in Earth science. When the shuttle program was cut, when funding for that was cut, a number of many people came up to me and said, "I heard that NASA is dead, or NASA is no longer getting funding," because their perception was that what NASA does is launch astronauts to the space station or
Right.
to the orbit. So I think that's exciting. That I don't know the study. I don't know how many people or what kinds of people were interviewed, but that many people seem to know that NASA contributes to the understanding of our Earth. I think that's fascinating.
I must admit, it surprised me because the image that we get of the US is that there are an awful lot of people who don't believe in climate change at all. But this would seem to indicate otherwise. As you said, I have no idea of the size of the sample or exactly what methodology was used. But it seems to indicate that most people think NASA's number one priority should be studying the Earth's climate, which I think is really encouraging.
I think the ratio in our country is probably tilted towards people understanding that climate change is an issue. We're seeing that in a lot of polls now that the midterm elections are coming up. But there is a vocal minority that thinks it's, hogwash.
Yeah.
So,
and only a couple of years ago, I think those people were a lot more numerous. I think the American public have come around to the idea that it's not just a global thing. It affects them. It affects their lives, their local communities, everything around them. So I think this is really encouraging. Okay, now Mary, you would like to talk to us about another aspect of space exploration, would you not?
I would, and it kind of fits on lovely from what you've just said, because obviously without satellites, we don't really have the opportunity of studying Earth's weather system. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the kind of weather-related stuff that satellites are involved with. Weather forecasting is something that we love to joke about because they always get it wrong, whatever. But looking at weather forecasting and climate change and kind of day-to-day climate issues is really, really important, and we could not do any of this without the space industry. First of all, weather satellites give more accurate forecasting. Things are so much better than they used to be. But that's not all that weather forecasting satellites are doing. They're also monitoring things like sea temperature, which again feeds into this climate change thing. They're looking at wind patterns, which is super important for preparedness when it comes to hurricane season. Dust pollution, volcanic ash and dust. Now that is vitally important, not just from a safety for your breathing, but you can't have aeroplanes flying where there are volcanic ash clouds because it's so abrasive that you have to ground aircraft if you're kind of having to deal with a lot of volcanic ash. So monitoring those things and the movement of those things is important for human health and also kind of airline safety. Wildfires, again, just tying in with the whole climate thing, we've had so many more wildfires. It certainly feels that way. Last summer was just horrendous. Poor Australia, loads of parts of the US. So monitoring the smoke and the wildfires themselves, all done by these satellites. Snow cover, again, a lot of it's melting, and it's just kind of monitoring those seasonal trends, and these are things that they are looking at. But another thing you wouldn't think of, obviously renewable energy is a huge thing that we need to be looking at, and certainly in the UK, we don't necessarily get a huge amount of sunlight, but one thing that the satellites can do is monitor how much solar kind of light certain areas of the Earth are getting. So you can monitor whether it's viable to put a solar farm there or not. And don't forget, of course, that any solar panels we have here on Earth are cheaper and more efficient thanks directly to the space industry. So all of these things are done by weather satellites. lot of people just wouldn't know that. Obviously, we can vaguely forecast where severe thunderstorms are going to happen, and that's important for yourself and your electrical equipment. I'm not going to talk too much about thunderstorms, but I do want to talk about a couple of other things that are super important. And the first one is tornado warnings. Now, people probably wouldn't understand that the UK per square kilometre get more tornadoes than anywhere else in the world. They just tend to be kind of little fiddly ones. They don't really do an awful lot of damage. Halloween in 2021, I have always dreamt of seeing a tornado or a funnel cloud, photographing them. Well, I kind of got my wish come true on Halloween, the 31st of October last year. So there was a really strange weather event happened here. We had a meso low passed over the UK, and we don't get that happen here very often. So in the space of just a few hours, there was this massive corridor of straight line wind damage that went all the way from Weymouth right up to Lincolnshire. And this was a fairly narrow corridor of damage, as in around about 30 kilometres wide approximately. And that caused damage all the way up. But within this box here, you see these red blobs. Within the inner hook of that straight line meso low.
1 second. Right, hang on. Okay, let's put it. Okay, right.
Have you not seen any of my slides?
No, not so far. Do you want to start again?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Can you see me now?
Yeah. I'm going to put this full screen. Hang on. There we are.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely sharing on my screen.
No. You're fine.
You haven't missed anything important. The good bit's coming now.
Great.
So
Okay.
we had that corridor of really strong straight line winds, but within that, on the inner edge of the hook of that meso low, there were 8 confirmed and 6 more probable tornadoes. The strongest was a T4. Now, the scale we use in this country is the T scale, and T0 is the weakest, and so it goes up the scale. So normally the sort of tornadoes we get in the UK would be T0, T1 sort of level. One of those 14 tornadoes went straight over the top of our house. And obviously, I did not know that this was a tornado. I knew something weird was happening. So if you think a tornado is about to happen, don't do what I was doing and stand in front of a window and record it, because I'll let you watch this first.
Blimey. Goodness me. Were you frightened, Mary? I would have been.
Terrified.
Oh my gosh.
There's always a trampoline. That clatter was part of our roof coming down.
Oh, God.
I was shaking for 4 hours. And this was a T2. Now, you can see the willow tree, which sadly got so damaged it had to come down, and the other tree obviously just went. You can see the rapidly changing wind directions on that willow tree. I must have watched this video 200 times, and it scares me every time, because we thought the whole chimney had gone, and it was, I felt like a drama queen. Ultimately, we lost 4 ridge tiles, so it really wasn't that important.
God.
But the damage that did was extraordinary, and the stuff was blowing in different directions, and at the end of our garden, there was a tiny bit of our observatory roof gone, and the sweet corn still upright. So across the whole of our village, there was this narrow track of damage that just took the fences down and stripped roofs. Thankfully, no one injured. That big tree you saw go down got uprooted. That is some strong winds. So I'm so lucky that I didn't run outside with my camera, which is what I usually do when strange weather is happening. And it left this massive hole in the ground. This root ball is over 6 feet in diameter. And it just, you saw how easily that tree came down. So I now have a new respect for tornadoes. I never want to see one again. I hope I never photograph one. I still don't have a photograph of one as such, because I was actually inside it. But in the UK, we are pretty lucky that those sorts of events are rare. But in America, you have much more of a problem with this. And in December last year, completely out of tornado season, on the 10th of December that night, there were 61 tornadoes in one night that covered across 8 states. And sadly, 80 people lost their lives there. It would have been way more had it not been for the, I'll talk about the stats in 1 second. It would have been way more had it not been for tornado warning systems. Now, the way the tornado warning systems work is, first of all, they're looking at NOAA weather satellites satellites to look at where that you're likely going to get a touchdown. But to confirm a touchdown, they're actually looking at debris signatures on a Doppler radar. So if you're familiar with the way that Doppler works, you've got, like with galaxies that are rotating, you have a red shift and a blue shift because they're rotating different directions on different edges. Similar thing happens with a tornado. So they're looking at debris. The minute there's a kind of confirmed touchdown, all channel warning systems go out, and this they're sent out via SMS and emergency alert systems, and the alert systems are using satellites, and it interrupts absolutely every broadcast on every channel across the whole area. So no matter what you're listening to on the radio, what you're watching on TV, you will get the warning, and that has saved an just incredible number of lives. In 1925, the death rate was 1 per 1.8 million in America, and now, well, by the 2000, it was down to 0.11 per million. Still a lot, and obviously that's going to have improved as technology has improved. So from a tornado alone perspective, satellites have played a really valuable role in life-saving. But tsunamis...
Can I just interrupt you a second? Just for the benefit of our viewers, could you define what a mesocyclone is?
No, because I've no idea.
Okay, fine. Carry on.
Sorry.
As you
Basically, I have a vague idea. I'm not an expert on it, but a cyclone is obviously huge. It covers like hundreds of miles. A mesocyclone is that in miniature. So that's the simplified version of what a mesocyclone is, just a baby cyclone.
Just a baby cyclone. Thank you very much.
I might be wrong. Please do correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm very much not a trained weather person. But the other thing that is a huge cause of loss of life is tsunamis. And you will all remember Boxing Day 2004, utterly horrific. There was a magnitude earthquake 30 kilometers below the sea off the coast of Indonesia, and that sent a series of utterly devastating tsunamis across the Indian Ocean. And in that one day, over 250,000 people lost their lives. Those tsunamis hit 9 hours in some places after the earthquake. There was no warning system in place. Nobody knew this was coming. And that is so tragic and so devastating. And in 2011, we had another really bad one. There was another magnitude earthquake below the Pacific Ocean this time. And that sent tsunamis out across the Pacific Basin. And this affected parts of Japan, and nearly 20,000 people lost their lives then. And this, of course, then triggered the Fukushima nuclear power station disaster, which was pretty grim too. In the aftermath of the Boxing Day tsunami, better warning systems have been put in place, thankfully, because there wasn't one. There was just no warning system in place whatsoever, which I find extraordinary. But now there are dark buoys on the surface, there are pressure sensors on the bed of the seabed, and they are communicating with satellites to get that warning out there. Now, I believe there are a lot of false alarms, but it's better to have a lot of false alarms than not get one when there is a genuine tsunami coming. Obviously, you can't do much about if you're low-lying, there's going to be damage to your property, but lives can be saved by this, and lives are regularly saved by this. So this would not be possible without satellites monitoring and sending out those warnings. So super important. The last thing I want to talk about is space weather, because if you're anything like me, you're constantly hooked up to the Aurora kind of notification apps, just trying to make sure that you don't miss out on any possible Aurora displays. But geomagnetic storms are very damaging as well. Now, in recorded history, the biggest we had was in 1859, and that was the Carrington event. And this was the most intense geomagnetic storm in recorded history, but not the most intense in history, full stop. And that basically caused outages with telegraph poles and some fires and stuff like that. And people reported aurora all around the globe. It led to some panic and some loss of life because people committed suicide. But ultimately, the infrastructure wasn't damaged by it. If that happened today, it would cause trillions of dollars of damage in the USA alone. So we need satellite monitoring of space weather in order to just make sure that we're protecting the infrastructure. In the 80s, the whole of Canada was knocked out. The power grid was completely taken offline by a geomagnetic storm. We've been kind of in a false sense of security recently, because although we are having regular 11-year solar cycles, the solar max hasn't been as active as normal, and people postulate we're in what they call a grand minimum because the activity's just not up there like it used to be. But there have been times in history where there have been these immense storms, and the reason we know about that is that they leave signatures. Carbon-14 in tree rings can be looked at to know this, but also beryllium-10 in polar ice. And we know that around about 775 AD, there was a solar storm that was 10 times more powerful than the Carrington one. We very nearly got one in 2012. It grazed off us. We were so close to having that. But there was one that was even bigger than that in 7000 BC or thereabouts. So this is going to happen again. And we obviously, there are things in place to protect power grids and just make sure that everything is safe. But I mean, you guys may well remember that just not that long ago, a newly launched set of Starlink satellites ended up deorbiting because of a minor geomagnetic storm.
That's right, they did, yeah.
So yeah, space weather, while it's amazing to see these great auroras, I'd love to have seen the aurora during the Carrington event. It's not good for infrastructure.
No, well, it wouldn't be today, certainly. As you said, it hardly affected anything then. Perhaps a few telegraphs, but that was about it.
But GPS, that's all satellites. So every aircraft would be grounded. All the shipping would be grounded. Everyone would have to go back to manually navigating again, which means the airspace would not be as busy. It couldn't be for safety reasons. So yeah, it's
But compass manufacturers would have a field day.
Yes, but they don't work in certain areas of the world.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. Thank you very much, Mary. That's absolutely fantastic.
So, Mary, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Thanks so much. That was very informative. I didn't know that there were so many tornadoes in the UK. Is there an equivalent of Tornado Alley or something like that? So I don't go and live there.
Not really. We've had a lot more, more severe weather generally across the globe, probably as a result of climate change. But yeah, there isn't really any one location in the UK. They don't tend to be kind of following trends the way that they do in the US. It's the way the weather systems drive them in Tornado Alley. Around the UK, they can be anywhere, and the UK is relatively small, so a lot of them tend to be kind of off the coast and be more like water spouts than tornadoes. So there's no one place. There have been a couple of places that have been hit twice, and I very much hope that doesn't happen to me because it was terrifying.
Yeah. Because my question then, thanks. My question then is, would it not be beneficial for us to have the same sort of satellite coverage or satellite surveillance system that the US has in terms of tornado watching for the UK, or at least for Europe? Or do we have that already in place?
The Toro is the where I got the graphics from showing where the tornadoes hit. They are a small organization that research this stuff, and they also send out teams to monitor damage and try to categorize what has happened. But they're a small organization, and the reason that they couldn't confirm the final 8 tornadoes is because Storm Eunice and Franklin hit a week later, and the small team of site investigators didn't get a chance to go to all of the tornado sites to actually get the necessary evidence and photographs, because it's difficult to unpick what's the straight line gust damage and what was actually tornadic. So they need to go and spend a day or two actually picking through every bit of debris to see what happened, and they couldn't do that in time before Eunice then battered the whole UK and damaged the damage, so they could never be sure what had happened when. So yeah, I think we do have good coverage, and I think it's something we should definitely be looking at more, because we're definitely getting more severe tornadoes in the UK than we've had before.
Yes, definitely. And just out of interest, does anybody know what the number 2 country for the most tornadoes per unit of land area is?
No, I don't.
And it actually swaps places with the UK as number 1, depending on the year. It's the Netherlands, believe it or not.
Oh.
Yeah, the Netherlands and the UK have the most tornadoes per unit of land area in the world, and they do swap depending on how the year goes. So there we are. That's something very interesting. Mary, thanks a million for all that.
Yeah, very
Can
welcome.
I just say a big thank you to Chris O'Riordan? Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, Chris. I said earlier I wasn't sure what the European Space Agency's PRODEX was, and Chris says it's an optional program of ESA devoted to the development of science experiments. The PRODEX budget results from a direct subscription of the participating states and is worth 40 to 50 million euros. So there we are. Thank you very much for that, Chris. And as always, everybody, if you've got any comments, feedback, questions, anything, put them in the live chat. If you think of something after the show's ended, put it in the comments on YouTube, and we will answer. So thank you very much. Rachel has posted, of course, please send your gallery images in to us. And that the address is spaceodditieslive@gmail.com, spaceodditieslive@gmail.com. As I say every week, we love seeing your images, so please do keep them coming. Only one image per email, please. And if you could get them into us by midday on the Sunday, that's the day before the show, then it gives Rachel time to put the presentation together in the gallery. Bernard, can we just, do you mind if we swap your presentation to next week? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Let's
that will allow us to
Roger and
continue
the
our
others.
theme even more next week, which will be great. So thank you. Bernard will deliver a presentation next week on the impact of various space images upon humans, which sounds really interesting. So we'll look forward to that, Bernard, and thank you for that. So I think what we will do now is go straight over to the hostess with the mostest, is Rachel with the viewers gallery. And we've had a few in this week. And after the gallery, we're going to finish off tonight by announcing the results of October's competition. So over to you, Rachel.
Thank you. Can you see that for me there to present it? Has it shown up at your end?
Yes,
if not, I will.
I'm just going to switch it on there. There we are. Let's just maximize it. There we are.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so I thought it was a small gallery this week, but actually there was a few more when I looked into it. So we've got a lovely deep sky tulip nebula by Simon Worthington.
Wow, that's lovely, isn't it?
And he's put obviously all of his techie options up there, but it was taken over 11 nights in June and July this year. So that's not under very much darkness. So to get that image in summer is
a good
pretty
achievement.
amazing.
Yeah, well done.
That's
well done
beautiful.
indeed. That's great.
So really gorgeous. I love the
Just
colours.
11 nights observing.
11 nights.
Yeah, it was 11 nights. Yeah, that's a lot of work, and it was well worth. Oh God, I wish I could take images like that. That is brilliant.
Stunning.
Then we've got the Pelican Nebula by Chris, who's watching again tonight. So we shot this with a one-shot colour, and by using the dual narrowband filters, he's processed this as a hoop palette.
Wow.
And I've rotated it round different to the way Chris sent in, so you can actually see the pelican shape.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I still
That's
think it
great,
looks like a
isn't
pterodactyl.
No, definitely a pelican. Thank you for that. That's great.
We've got a moon by Kevin Earp, which is a 12-panel mosaic. So each panel being a stack of the best 300 of 2,000 frames.
That's a lot of work, Kev.
How
Well
much colour
done.
there is. So let's have a
great.
bigger look at it.
That's great. God, that is beautiful, isn't it? Roger, more competition, mate. You're going to have to get out there after the show and get snapping. That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
And then we've got our Cheeky Wizard Nebula by Jerry. And this is on the ASI 294 MC Pro and using one of the dual band filters. So this is the L Extreme. And there we go, there's the wizard. Which is
beautiful.
I know a lot of people struggle to see the wizard, but I just see it straight away. You can see his sort of hat and his nose and his two arms stretched out.
Yeah.
No,
totally.
don't see it at all. Beautiful picture though.
We've got another moon, a mineral moon this time, by Glenn Fielding. Again, another one on the 294 MC Pro and using the L Extreme filter, I believe. Just here.
Beautiful.
Is that a light pollution filter? What is the L Extreme?
It sort of is, but it collects sort of hydrogen alpha, hydrogen beta, and oxygen. But obviously the HB doesn't really do much, so it can be used as a pollution filter, but you can also extract the channels and have it colorize it and create your own false palettes, which a lot of people do.
That's lovely, isn't it? That's amazing. So many good moonshots we've had recently. Fantastic.
Then we've got
another
one by Mike Hall, and I'm not even going to pronounce all the things. He's told me how to pronounce it, but it's the moon over Chamonix, the Chamonix Mountains. He even wrote it phonetically for me, but I'm just not even going to attempt to say it. And I've shown you the full
Chamonix.
frame view.
Oh, no, the other bit, the Aiguille de Midi.
Thank
les
you.
aiguilles du Midi à Chamonix.
And then I've just zoomed in just so you can see that moon there.
Absolutely stunning.
That's a really good definition,
and
isn't
I believe he took this, I'm sure he said hanging out of a cable car as he was going up. So
Don't
he had to
forget,
get time.
folks, one of our ideas for the end of the year is to produce a Space Oddities calendar with the pick of our shots from the viewers gallery. And that looks, well, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm not going to be accused of favoritism, but I love that image. It's just beautiful. So get your images in, and you might be in with the chance of inclusion in the Space Oddities calendar for 2023.
Yep, and that concludes the gallery for this week.
Thank you very much, Rachel. That is absolutely brilliant. So there we are. Yes, do send your entries into Rachel at spaceodditieslive@gmail.com. One image per email, please, to arrive at before midday on the Sunday before the show. And also, if you could entitle your emails gallery entry so that Rachel can find them easily in our inbox, that would be much appreciated.
You may not always get a reply to say it's been received.
No, you may not. We do our best to reply to you, but we do miss some. And we know we do. So apologies if you don't get a reply. We do appreciate your entry nonetheless. But you may not get a reply. Well, we decided against automated replies because it's a little bit impersonal. So apologies if you don't get the reply or if the reply is delayed. Okay, now we come to the big moment. Can I have a drum roll from somebody, please? Thank you. That will do. Okay. So we have the winner of the October competition to win this solar finder scope from our sponsors, Rother Valley Optics. Again, thank you to Rother Valley for sponsoring our show. And to win this lovely, delightful, sexy solar finder scope, which allows you to aim your telescope at the sun without looking through the eyepiece, which, as we know, is exceptionally dangerous, which you should never do. And it basically projects an image of the sun onto the back of the finder scope onto a screen so that you can line your telescope up. Now, the standard for the competition was exceptionally high. We had quite a few entries, and we thank you all very, very much for your entries, but there can only be one winner. So let's go through and have a look at the entries, and then I'll announce the winner at the end. Again, thank you so much for sending them in. So first of all, we had this from Jack Martin, sunset. He was on the River Nile when he took this. So that's a sunset on a River Nile cruise. So something I've always wanted to do, certainly. And we hope you had a great time, Jack. I'm absolutely 100% sure you did. So there's that from Jack. Matthew Wenham sent in this sunrise. Not sure where it was taken, but the excellent colours there. That's a beautiful sunrise. If you're ever early enough up in the morning to see a sunrise, that's a good one, apparently. So then we had Robert Hope gave us this one over a river or a canal. Looks like it could be a canal, a bit wide for a canal maybe. Anyway, it's a watery picture of I think it's a sunrise. Beautiful, thank you, Robert. We have Steve Helixer. And this was, I realised I've just spelled your name wrong on the slide. I thought I corrected it, but obviously it didn't correct for whatever reason. Sorry, Steve. La Calima. And Steve says the natural boundaries of Teide National Park are marked by grandiose, spectacular caldera rock formations. I know, I've been there. It's the most unbelievably weird alien landscape. This cropped picture of a sunset was taken by me on my iPhone just before setting up my telescope during my stay on this incredible volcano 4 years ago. Dust from northwest Africa washed over the Canary Islands, causing skies to turn orange and visibility to drop, giving the impression that you are standing on the planet Mars. Such events, known to islanders as La Calima, generally happen when strong seasonal winds carry sand and dust away from the Sahara. A lovely, lovely photo, Steve.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
really good. You had better luck than I did when I went to Mount Teide, and we had booked to go right up to the top of the mountain, which is you have to book because it's a bit of a nature reserve, and they don't let many people up there at a time. And I was told about the glorious views I would get from the top of Mount Teide. And on the day we booked to go, there was a really thick haze, and we couldn't see more than a couple of 100 feet either side of the mountain. So that was a very disappointing day. But I'm glad you've got clear skies for that, Steve. And I would love to have seen that. Anyway, moving on, we have this from Dean Coates, taken at Lord's, which is a typically English place to take a photograph, of course, and a historic cricket ground, sunset at Lord's, and that's absolutely wonderful. So thank you for that. Then we have Stuart Hunter, took this at Totnes on the Isle of Wight. Again, a watery scene, very atmospheric. Thank you very much for that, Stuart. David Miller sent in this lovely image, again over water with the reflections in the water. Absolutely beautiful image. As you can see, the standard for this competition was very high. And of course, we will be having another competition this month. Stay tuned for news of what that is and what the prize will be this month. But we will, of course, be having another competition this month, thanks to the generosity of our sponsor, the Valley Optics.
And the sun's slightly below the horizon here, yes, illuminating the bottom of the clouds, which is
just let me go back.
Interesting.
Let's just go back. Yeah, that's right. Yes, it must have been. Yeah, absolutely. Just lit up at the bottom beautiful. There. Yes, absolutely beautiful. Lee Hoare took this above Bristol en route to Lanzarote. Hope you had a great time in Lanzarote, Lee. And the sun just scraping the horizon there. And above Bristol, a lovely shot, absolutely lovely shot. I do like taking photos from aircraft because you do see some amazing things. Obviously, you don't see anywhere else. So lovely shot, Lee, and there you are. Thank you for that. Sonia Turkington sent in this sunset at Werneth Low on Tameside. The sun with an aircraft there, vapor trails in the background. Beautiful, Sonia. Thank you so much for that.
A sun pillar as well.
Is there? Hang on.
A very faint sun pillar. Just a slight light going vertically up from the sun.
Very, very faint one. Yes, well spotted, Mary. You've obviously got eyes for sun pillars. So there we are. Okay.
He has.
Yeah, Ian McIntyre took this lovely sunrise, and thank you very much for that. And then coming towards the end now. This is one that I know I'm not entering the competition. I'm not part of the competition, but as we were talking about sunrise and sunset, I just thought I'd throw these in. This is one I took in Littlehaven in Pembrokeshire about 6 or 7 years ago, and it was the most amazing sunset I'd ever seen. And also this one of the setting sun that I took. This was not with a mobile camera, I hasten to add. This was with a proper camera. So I just thought I'd throw this at the end. Why not? Right. So there can only be one winner. And I would like to announce that. Can I just go back to the slide? That the winner that we have chosen is Mr. David Miller with this lovely, lovely shot. So congratulations, David. And we are very happy for you. Well done. That is an absolutely beautiful shot. You have won yourself a solar finder scope, sir. Could you please send an email to spaceodditieslive@gmail.com and give us your home address so we can get the solar finder scope shipped to you, which will hopefully happen within a day or so of us receiving your email. So well done, David. That's an absolutely beautiful image, and well done for winning the competition. As I say, there will be another competition later this month, so stay tuned for that.
Andy, I just want to say I stared at these, maybe 12 or so images for about a half an hour. They were all absolutely gorgeous.
I know. It was
eliminate a single one of them.
Yeah.
Just beautiful, beautiful pictures, all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. They were beautiful pictures, and we do thank you so much for sending them in. We did enjoy looking at them, and it was a tough decision for us. We said that last month as well, because when we run these competitions, we always find the standard is so high. We always have trouble deciding on a winner. But
A
in
few
fact,
flights break out occasionally, I think.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So we've no idea what this month's competition is going to be yet. It depends on the prize. We try to do something relating to the prize. So stay tuned. Hopefully by next week we'll be able to give you details of the November competition. Do write your comments and feedback in the chat and in the YouTube comments after the show. Do remember to like and subscribe, because it really does help us. We hope you've enjoyed the new look Space Oddities. I think we've got away without any technical problems tonight, really, apart from me forgetting to turn on Mary's PowerPoint presentation, for which I say sorry. You can beat me afterwards if you like, but that was the only thing I think we've had as a problem tonight. So thank you very much for joining us. But do let us know what you think. Do you like the new look Space Oddities? What do you think? And your feedback, as always, is greatly appreciated. So from
I
us,
just want to apologise to Hogarth's astrophotography, because apparently he did send in a submission, but it doesn't seem to be there. So we'll have to.
Okay. Well, we can find it for next week, or you can resend it if you like. Don't know why we didn't receive it. If you'd like to resend it to spaceodditieslive@gmail.com, we will include it in next week's gallery. And apologies if
It was a competition entry, not the gallery entry.
Oh, it's a competition entry. Oh, right. Oh, that's
we can still pop it up on the screen.
So yeah, we might be able to show it next week.
Yeah, we can show it next week. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. We will try and track it down, or the best thing I think is to resend it, and we will show it next week. So sorry that you didn't get to enter. There we are. Okay, that's about it from us.
Indeed. Shouldn't we do just a very quick news wrap up?
Yes, I think news? Yes. Okay, we've got time. We've got time. Yes, Michael has got some news. I think you want to share with us, Michael.
Yes, just bear with me 1 second. I can start doing my presentation. Just bear with me. Okay. Okay, can you see that?
I'm just going to turn it on now. Hang on.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's gone again.
Yeah, it has gone.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Try sharing again.
What have I done now? I just thought maybe just quickly finish with a wrap up of news, but maybe if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's fine.
There we are. It's there now. Hang on, Michael. There we are. Okay, all yours.
Right. What's happened there then? Hold on. Sorry, seem to having problems sharing it now.
We've got a blank screen here.
You got a blank screen. Where have you got a blank screen? I know why.
Right, let me just turn this off again. Just 1 second.
Can you see anything?
I can see it in the thumbnail, Michael. But when we add it to the stream, it's completely.
Yeah. Right. What I'm going to do.
Hang on. No, it's gone. It's gone again. Something's happened to it.
Gone again. Just bear with me. I'll try once more.
Okay. And if not, we can hold it till next week.
Yeah.
And do a longer news spot next week, if that's all right with you, Michael.
Yeah. Sorry. It's.
Just when we thought things were going right, Andy, I jinxed it.
What did I say? Oh, we haven't had any
jinxed it. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's try this. Yeah, there we are. Although you're not showing the actual slideshow, you're showing the slides.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, fine. Well, let's. I'll just maximize this so we can see it a bit
So
better.
am I showing the slides now?
No, you're still showing the. Okay, don't worry.
Now I can get it right.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
We'll hold that over till next week, Michael.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Don't worry, it means you get to do an even longer news slot next week, because there will be a lot more news after all. So
Okay.
There we are. All right, then. That's about it from us then, I think, finally. Panel, do you want to say anything before we go?
Thank you for the competition entries. They were amazing, every one
Yes.
of them.
Absolutely. Thank you for the images, and yeah, that's great. I'm happy
Yeah.
that it worked well tonight, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, our apologies to Hogarth Astrophotography for whatever reason we didn't get your entry. So send it again, and we'll put it in next week's gallery. In fact, that will be the best place for it. So sorry about that.
And for people in America, go to bed early, get up early. Lunar eclipse tonight.
Yes, of course. Yes. Where is that visible? Is it visible outside the US? I suppose it must be somewhere.
I think barely in
Australia,
the UK.
New Zealand, Alaska. Basically, if you're in the Pacific, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll go there now then.
It was in my presentation, which wasn't able to be shown tonight.
Yeah, so yes, apologies to Roger. We mustn't forget to say sorry to Roger. Roger, we will get the problem ironed out by next week. Don't worry.
I believe the middle of the eclipse is during daylight in the UK.
Okay.
There you are. And it's not visible
after it's set.
It's not
expect
visible
to see some lunar eclipse pictures then.
Right. Yeah. We'll look forward to some good pictures. Okay. Right. So from
myself and from the panel,
it's good night from us, and it's good night from them. See you next week. We'll be back next week as usual, 8:00 UK time.
Good night.
If you're watching on Facebook, thank you so much, and again, thanks to Astronomy Ireland for letting us invade their Facebook page. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, everybody. Much appreciated, and we hope it wasn't too much. So anyway, take care, folks. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.